Getting mid-boss isn't just an advantage, it oftentimes decides the whole entire game. But knowing why mid-boss matters isn't enough. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how pro players capitalize on mid-boss to close out wins, plus the specific strategies, items, and draft picks that help you secure it consistently. If you haven't seen our previous video talking about why mid-boss dominates the current meta, I highly recommend for you to watch it before watching any further. So to kind of highlight how pro teams use mid-boss to get their soul lead, we're going to look at this example from the Night Shift X Trolley Open. This is the NA semifinals. It is a best of 3, Sneaky Golem versus Yunks, game 1, right? So 14 minutes here, mid-boss is being taken. There's only an 8k soul differential between Sneaky Golems and the Yunks. And if we look 6 minutes later, there is a 36k soul differential between Sneaky Golems and the Yunks, and this game is basically over at this point. So how did this even happen? How did this begin? So there are 3 things these teams are doing after they get mid-boss in order to secure their soul lead. The first thing they're doing is they're fighting, right? So immediately after they get mid-boss, you can see here, they take a team fight, and they're about 8k soul lead turns into about a 12k soul lead about here. So they take the fight, they kill everyone, they get souls from fighting. You can see a little further on, they're going to fight some more. You can see on the right, they're fighting. They're winning the fight because they have the Rejuvenator buff. They're getting more souls from the fight. You can see here as well on the left side, I believe another fight occurs. Yeah, another fight occurs about right here. They get a kill, they take Walker. And there's one final fight that happens at about 18 minutes here, which opens up the mid-walker. They win the fight, they get mid-walker, right? So that is the first thing teams are doing. The second thing teams are doing after they get mid-boss is they're running objectives. So you can see here, after they win the team fights, I mean, even if they're not winning the team fights, the enemy might just concede walkers when you have mid-boss, but they're actively pushing walkers at about 15 minutes here when the urn spawns right after mid-boss. You can see that Paradox grabs the urn and runs it. The enemy team can't really do anything because of how broken mid-boss is. And the third thing that teams are doing after they get mid-boss is they're invading enemy jungle. So you can see here, the Ivy goes into the right side jungle and just invades with the mid-boss, right? While their team is fighting on the left side. Takes all the enemy jungle. So those are the 3 things you need to be doing with mid-boss to secure your lead. You first need to fight. Second, from those fights, maybe translate into walkers or urns, or even without fighting, the enemy team might just concede and you can raw push it. And then third, you need to steal jungle. Whether it's after fighting, before fighting, to start a fight, steal jungle. Those are the 3 things that pro teams do in order to secure their soul lead for mid-boss. So I kind of want to talk about now a little bit of pre-fight when it comes to mid-boss, you know, the draft, when pros are taking mid-boss, how they itemize to take mid-boss. A thing that we already discussed when it comes to pre-fight in the last video is when mid-boss is being taken. It's being taken at about 16 to 18 minutes, and the reason for that is because the death timer spike that happens around that time in Deadlock. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the Night Shift number 10 pick and ban priority. Basically, this is like a tier list of how often characters are picked and banned. So if we look at the very top, these characters are not being picked exclusively because of mid-boss, okay? Not everything in draft happens because of mid-boss. There's a variety of reasons, right? Lane, comfort, synergies, etc., etc. But it is not a coincidence that these characters picked at the top have very strong mid-boss contest, secure, whatever. So we'll go through them a little bit. Yamato has Shadow Transformation to secure mid-boss. You can't be stunned, parried, right? I mean, you can be parried, but it won't stun you. Kelvin Dome, you can use it to have a great team fight after mid-boss or during mid-boss. You know, your dome is a literal circle. The mid-boss pit is a circle. Victor, insane mid-boss contest with Ethereal Shift, the AoE Aura Suffering, the alts. Infernus has really good mid-boss secure with his alts. Pocket, big AoE Affliction for the mid-boss fight. Abrams, good mid-boss secure with his ults and his charge. So anecdotally, most team comps in Deadlock need a pick character for a variety of reasons, right? And we can see here in the Night Shift tier list again that a pick character, it's picked and banned pretty often. Paradox picked, Makrill picked, Hayes picked, Holiday picked, Bebop picked, right? And the reason these pick characters are picked is that when you need to go mid, when you want to go mid, when it's a good time to go mid, right, around that time, you need someone to be able to get a kill or at least set up a kill for a mid-boss. And that's exactly why these characters are picked. It's not the exclusive reason once again, but it is a consideration when it comes to having a pick character. It's just another reason as to why having a pick character is important. To show you guys an example of what I was talking about with the pick character, we're gonna take another game from the Night Shift X Trolley Open. This is game 2 of a best of 3. Melee Creeps versus Love Yoshi semifinals. We can see here that Melee Creeps has 2 pick characters. They have Makrill and they have Holiday. And what essentially happens is Makrill happens to find a victim in the jungle, and I'm sure that this is calculated. Melee Creeps has the lead. They want to go mid-boss to close out this game, right? Makrill finds a kill. They kill the Paradox, and they go mid after. And obviously, that wasn't like the only kill they got. It wasn't exclusively the Makrill's play that made mid-boss happen. The Mina also just randomly dies. But yeah, Makrill eats, Makrill gets kill, they go mid-boss. They didn't even need this Mina kill to go mid. After they kill his Paradox, the game's basically over. So having these pick characters to create the opportunity to get that pick to go into mid is exclusive. Extremely important when it comes to mid-boss in Deadlock. So let's talk about itemization when it comes to mid-boss. The first thing you need to understand before we even talk about itemization is that punching mid-boss while you shoot it is the highest DPS that you can deal to the mid-boss. Sometimes based on your character, there's other ways to deal maximum DPS, but this is like the standard for most characters, punching while shooting. What a lot of teams did in the past is they built a lot of punch items. Punch was very, very strong. Not sure if you guys were familiar with the Crushing Fist meta, but punch items, right? Because you're punching mid-boss to do the most damage, will increase your DPS to mid-boss the most out of like any purchase, in my opinion. So the first thing that you can do to take mid-boss quicker is to have punch items. And once again, punch items are not being built exclusively because of mid-boss. There's many other reasons that punch items are being built, but this is just another consideration to think about when it comes to, you know, building punch items, or if you want to have a quicker mid-boss, right? Another thing that you can do to take mid-boss much quicker is to build Shred. So I will show you an example of that. I have just Torment Pulse here, the item. I'm punching mid-boss. It deals about 116 a punch. I buy something like Bullet Resist Shredder and proc it on the mid-boss, and I'm dealing about 131 a punch. The same thing applies to items like Hunter's Aura. With Hunter's Aura, I'm dealing about 138. And if you combine all of these items together, you know what I mean? Let's say we get this. Let's say we get the Torment Pulse. Let's say we get an Alchemical Fire. Let's say we get some punch items. Like, your damage to mid-boss is going to be insane. Right, I'm dealing 197 a punch to mid-boss just by myself. So imagine with all this shred, with your allies in the pit all punching it, you're gonna take mid-boss super, super, super quick. So shred is also another really good purchase for mid-boss, mainly bullet resist shred. Another item that you can purchase in order to take mid-boss quicker is weapon damage versus NPCs, which is monster rounds mainly, and Cult of Sacrifice. So if I buy something like, just as a test, wraparounds, which doesn't increase your actual damage besides the weapon investment, I'm dealing about 124 punch. If I buy something like monster rounds, I'm dealing 153 a punch. So your punch damage increases by a lot. And remember, for all of these items I'm testing, I'm only 400 souls. I don't have that many souls or that many items. The damage will only scale even more when I have more souls, for example. So weapon damage versus NPCs is also gonna be another bet. So 153. If I like cultists, I'll probably deal some more as well. It's about 166 a punch. It's not bad. It's pretty good. And for the last example I want to bring up, it's an item that a lot of people have been building, not just for mid-boss, right? Remember, this is a trend. People aren't only doing these things because mid-boss, but it's Ethereal Shift, right? So Ethereal Shift, the item, let's just take this. When the crystal starts dropping, you can use Ethereal Shift to ignore all of the CC and to come out whenever you want to parry, to punch, to do whatever you want, right? So Ethereal Shift basically will counter like Seismic Slam, Abrams Charge, Stone Form, any kind of aids in the pits that might happen because you're taking rejuve. You can literally ignore it with E-Shift. And once again, this item isn't being built exclusive for that. It's just a byproduct, right? So guys, that's all I got for you when it comes to mid-boss and what teams are doing for mid-boss. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that you guys can think of. Make sure to drop in the comments those things so I can read over them, and maybe, you know, there'll be some really good ideas that I can implement myself. So make sure to drop a like, subscribe, all that good jazz for more educational content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.